Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Daly. I spent 20 years with United Press International, most of it with the old UPI Radio Network. And my favorite assignment was going on the road producing and hosting American Montage. It was an hour-long weekly program. Now here's an edited version of one of those shows. This week we come to you from my apartment building in Los Angeles, the beautiful Rancho Los Feliz apartments, and behind many of the buildings are large gas-fired grills. My special guest is a personable young man with a bright future. His name is Bobby Flay. He's just written a book on grilling, so we're going to enjoy his comments as Bobby and I talk about outdoor grilling and then sample what he cooked.
People love the idea of going out outside to cook. It becomes a centerpiece of a party. And also, I think it reminds people of their childhood for some reason. You know, as kids running around, there's always somebody grilling outdoors. Your mom, dad, uncle, somebody or another. You know, it's always been hot dogs and hamburgers, but it's not just hot dogs and hamburgers anymore.
I remember my dad did not like to, we call it barbecue. I don't know how that phrase got started as a euphemism for grilling. Right. But he didn't like the taste of charcoal. But whenever we would visit my aunts and uncles in Washington, D.C., and this was 30-some years ago, they always cooked out. And that was the one thing I look forward to. My big memories of those trips were the cookouts in their backyards.
No, I know. And actually, you know, I have memories of, like, grilling lobsters and corn and stuff, you know, when I was, like, 4 years old. That's why people say to me, you know, I have this new book out called Boy Meets Grill, and they say, you know, how long did it take you to write? And I say 30 years, which is really true. I mean, it started a long time ago. And I think that even in hamburgers, like, I even like my hamburgers a little overcooked outdoors because there's just something that reminds me of, like, the flavor of an overcooked hamburger. Just had something about it that was magic.
Yeah, you look back at some of those really awful-looking hot dogs that were singed on one side and not on the other. Unless you really take the time, it's an irregular kind of cooking, but by its very nature, you're in kind of a less controlled situation than if you're inside.
But I think that grilling is really practical. I think people are really intimidated by the grill. And I don't know whether it's usually the size of the grill or if it's about the heat or they're worried about things are going to stick. I'm not really sure what it is. Maybe it's a little bit of everything. But grilling is really practical. And the questions that I get asked very often by people who like to cook outdoors or who would like to cook outdoors are things that are, you know, very simple to answer. Like, for instance, you know, people say to me, I love to cook vegetables on the grill, but they always seem to fall through the grates. Cut them bigger. I mean, that's really, I mean, it's almost obnoxious, the answer, but it's true. You know, I cook my vegetables whole, and then I grill them whole, and then I cut them. For some reason, people have been used to cutting all their vegetables up before they grill them. Right?
You're going to boil them.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. And then they're going to put them on the grill. It becomes like a balancing act on the grill. The other thing people say to me is, I love cooking steaks on the grill, but they always get overcooked. Take them off sooner. I mean, it's really, it's you know, if you think of a grill as a flame, you know, as a sort of a burner with some grates on top, I think it breaks it down much simpler. And that's really what it is. I even bring pots out and, you know, I steam open mussels and clams and stuff right on top of the grill because really that's what it is. It's just a burner that just happens to be outdoors.
You know, one other memory that comes back is in my parents' house back in Indiana, we had a gas log in the fireplace. Looked like a real burning log, but it was a gas log. And many, many years ago, 35 or more, our local power plant had a problem. We didn't have electricity for 4 days. So what my dad did was he worked in plumbing and heating. He made a metal frame to hang a pot over the gas fireplace logs.
Right.
And it was the height of simplicity, but it worked, and that's how my mom cooked for about 4 days.
Yeah, I see this, to me, grilling, people make grilling out to be much more complicated than it is, and it's really the simplest form of getting something cooked. I mean, you know, think about it. It's some charcoal, or sometimes it's some briquettes, and it's a grate, and you got some heat, and you just throw something on the grill and let it happen. And what happens is, especially guys either can grill or they think they can grill. I don't know what it is, but that's the way it is. And what they do is they come out and they put something on the grill. We're going to throw some steaks on here in a second. And the first thing they want to do is they want to touch it. They want to make sure it's not going to stick. They want to turn it over 40 times because they think they're really grilling. But in fact, what you should really do is, should I throw one on? Should I throw one in?
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to throw a steak on. I mean, this is a ribeye steak. I just, salt and pepper, or you can put like some fresh garlic and herbs and stuff if you want. And I throw it right in the grill. And you want to hear that sizzle. That's really important. Now, if you notice, I'm not going near that steak right now. I'm going to let it cook, because I'm only going to turn the steak once, because I want it to get a really nice crust on one side, and then I'm going to turn it over. As soon as you start touching something on the grill when you put it on, that's when it starts to stick.
Well, the first radio station I worked for was on the 4th floor of an old building that was owned by the Knights of Columbus. And, of course, they had a restaurant downstairs, so it was extremely convenient. An old guy named Jimmy, old crotchety fellow, used to cook down there. And that's one of the things he told me. He said, you turn a hamburger once.
Absolutely. I turn chicken once. I turn steaks, fish, whatever it is, I turn them once. Now, this grill is a little high. If it starts getting if the steak catches on fire, I'll move it to a colder spot.
Should we turn the flame down a little?
Well, I don't think so. Especially for steak, I want it to get nice and crusty. So the only way to do that and not overcook it is to make it sort of sear it, so to speak. So you need very high heat, so that it gets nice and crusty on one side. Then you flip it over on the other side and let it cook for a few more minutes, and then your steak is really cooked.
By the way, I did not tell the listeners this, but I've told you this before going on the air. I misunderstood what your last name was. The woman who called up to arrange the interview had a very strong British accent, and I thought she was calling you Bobby Flay.
Right, it's Bobby Flay.
It's Bobby Flay, and I thought, well, that's a neat stage name. Here's a guy who's doing grilling, and he's calling himself Mr. Fillet.
I know. Well, it's better than Mr. Food.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which, there is somebody out there named Mr. Food. But, no, Flay is my name, and I just happen to like to cook. And when I was a kid, when I was in grammar school, my nickname was Fish, because they used to call me Fillet Fish. But
I see.
We're
Irish?
I'm an Irish guy from New
Dennis
York.
Michael Daly here. So.
Is that you? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So we have something in common right off the bat, and we like to grill.
Well, now, I got a couple of questions to ask. Can we go through the cuts of meat? Because I have made the mistake, and maybe it's because I'm a cheapskate, of buying the wrong cut of meat that when you put it on a grill turns to shoe leather. If you want it to be tender in this quick cooking mode, what are we looking for?
Well, I like to use ribeye, which is what we're cooking now. Filet mignon, tenderloin is obviously fantastic on the grill. Sirloins and strip loins, things along those lines. You could cook flank steak and skirt steak, but you want to marinate that first. Maybe some kind of soy sauce, ginger, garlic kind of thing. Maybe an Asian-style marinade of some kind. Let's take a look at what the steak looks like.
I would put the mic down there, but I don't want to get it on fire.
You see how that looks? You got good grill marks there. Now I'm going to turn it this way, so I'm going to get those nice restaurant grill marks on there, which is key.
Well, now the reason this flame is so high is, and I didn't have too much advance time before you got here, I wanted to try to get the grill metal itself as hot as I could. Or is that important?
It was very important. What's happening is that the briquettes or the charcoal, the heat permeates up to the front, permeates up to the grill, to the grates, and then the grates become very hot. And that's what it keeps it, the grates keep the heat very even.
You've heard this joke, haven't you? What in some restaurants, what's the difference between the $12 steak and the $15 steak?
What's the difference?
You get a sharper knife with the
I like that.
You may have that.
I will definitely use that for my restaurants. Now, is that the way you like it cooked?
Oh, that's lovely.
See, I cook for now. See, if this was for me, I would have cooked this less. But for you requested medium well. And in my business, the customer is king. So at this point, you're the customer. So we'll see.
My listeners don't know what time of day we're taping this. This has been my breakfast also. This is absolutely magnificent.
Great. Well, I'll cook for you anytime.
So the key is just don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid to grill. Get in there, get to know your grill, get intimate with your grill, learn the hot spots, learn the cold spots, and have a good time.
And the book again is called?
Boy Meets Grill.
Cute name.
Thank you very much.
Bobby, thanks for coming out here.
My pleasure.
And there you have it, another edited episode of one of the American Montage programs prepared for the UPI Radio Network back in the 1980s and 90s. I'm Dennis Daly. Thanks for listening. Thanks for going with me this week. And check YouTube for more American Montage programs.